That was just meant to be a chapter revision. I would discuss that paper sometime soon. Okay, so maybe sometime on Monday, Tuesday, I'll try to discuss it, because some children are yet to take from some schools because of their regular classes. So once every batch is done with this particular test, I'll discuss the paper. Okay, so today's schedule is bio, physics, sorry, not physics, max, chemistry, and okay. So for any queries related to Learnity, please reach out to Mr. Ramesh. Okay, so we'll start with the class. Nakshatra, you're from which school? Your name is not having a school name. Okay, you reach out to Mr. Ranjit, he'll sort it out. Okay. If you're from Kamla Niketan, I think you should reach out to Mr. Ranjit. He'll guide you as to how to take the test. Okay, children. So we'll Mr. Ranjit should be there in that KNMS WhatsApp group, whatever it is. Okay, so we'll continue with the plasma membrane. So while talking about plasma membrane, we were also talking about osmosis yesterday. So we saw about how osmosis is going to affect your cell structures. Okay. So today what we are going to see is we are going to see how this active transport is going to happen. Okay, so we are going to study about how active transport is going to happen. So whenever you're talking of active transport, what is that you need to know is the proteins play a major role. Okay, so let us try to go ahead with the model. So you have your plasma membrane. Okay, and then let us say that there is a protein. And let us just draw this thing. Okay, so let us say this is the membrane which is there, and then active transport has to happen. So when active transport should be happening, what will happen is you will see that first ATP will be like sort of a substance has to move from, let us say this is the inside of the cell, and let us say this is the outside of the cell. So let us say this is the entire plasma membrane which is there. Okay. So now what will happen is first ATP will attach here to the protein, and then it will hydrolyze, and then that phosphate will be moved and it will be converted to ADP. While it is converting, what will happen is it will release energy. When it is releasing energy, what will happen to the membrane? The membrane, which is open inside now, will become open outside. So let me just draw this particular cases how the protein structure will change. Let us say that it is initially, this is the starting position, first position. Whatever substance which has to move out will come and attach here normally. And then what will happen? Your ATP is attaching. ATP is converted into ADP, and it would have given some energy, and the protein shape changes. So it will change to the second position. So when it is changing to the second position, what will happen? This substance would be facing outside now. So now what will happen? This substance will go outside. And then after some time, what will happen is, if suppose some other substance which has to come from outside to inside, it will be like waiting there. Okay. And then what will happen is, like maybe like let us say that this red color structure has gone outside, and then the white substance is like kind of coming inside. What would happen? It will come and attach here. Now again what will happen? One more ATP would be converted to ADP, and the protein structure will change again. And ultimately what will happen, now the structure would be, configuration would be changed again, and the white substance will come inside. So basically what it is involving proteins and ATP. So this is how this movement is happening. So this is the third position and this is the fourth position. So this is how your sodium potassium pump will occur in your body. In your body, there is a pump which is called as sodium potassium pump. Okay. So now the question for some people is, some people are asking me, sir, can any substance go inside and come outside? Okay. So they are asking me, can any substance will go inside and come outside? No, any substance cannot just like that go inside and come outside. The protein will be very specific. Say for example, if you're going to talk about a protein will have a structure which is like very, very specific. Okay, let us say that the protein is looking like this. So which means only a substance which is of this shape will be able to come inside. Not any random substance can come. So basically, you know, no, like the protein, if it is open outside, let us say that it is having a dent like this, which means some substance which will be able to fit in only can come in. And all proteins will have specific type of patterns which will allow only certain type of substances to come inside. Okay, so a protein which is of this shape, I mean, let us say that there is some molecule which is of this shape, this cannot come and fit in here. Why? Because it will be like looking like a lock and key pattern. The protein and the substance are highly specific. Okay, so let me quickly explain to you once again. What is happening is, you need to understand that the transport of active transport will happen through membrane proteins, integral membrane proteins. Yesterday we studied about this integral membrane proteins. These proteins are proteins which are present in your plasma membrane. These proteins will connect two sites basically. Okay, so first initially the starting position, the protein is facing inwards or open inwards. You are able to see that the protein is facing inward. It is like kind of like facing inwards. When it is inward, any substance from inside can go and attach. Whatever substance has to be transported will be going and attaching in the inside side. So let us say that this red color substance is supposed to be transported. So this substance will go and attach with the protein. That is the first step. Okay. So first step will be what? Substance to be transported is attached. And what is the second step? The second step, the protein will be attached with ATP. Let us say that ATP will be attached. Let us say that this is a protein. So ATP will be attached first of all. This ATP will be converted to ADP. Okay. So ATP is attached to the protein. And broken down to ADP, releasing energy. The third point, the energy catalyzes the change in the configuration, change in transmembrane protein structure. So the third step will be what? So after that is done, the protein would start to change the position. You are able to see now how it is showing. Now whatever was open inside is now open outside. So what will happen? The red color molecule can go outside now because it is open that side. So it is like gate has opened up and then this molecule is going out. So this molecule will go out. Okay. So now let us say that some substance from outside has to come in during the same process. So what will happen? That substance will be available outside. Since it is open outside, the substance will come and attach here, and the substance will be like kind of like attached now. So now the protein has to be changed shape again. Okay, which means it is open outside now. From open outside position, it has to be open inside position. So the protein structure has to change. So what will happen? One more ATP is broken down. And then one more time, it is converted into ADP. This will supply the energy. Once the energy is supplied, the protein structure will change. And ultimately what will happen? The protein will become open inside. So now what will happen? Once it is inside, the molecule can come inside. Okay. Basically, please understand that ATP is going to give you energy. Okay. Based on the energy, the protein structures would change. So how this ATP would catalyze and all those things are things that you will learn in undergraduation in case if you're taking molecular biology. Okay, how this protein structure is changing and all those things is based on the thing. Water is not transported via active transport. Water is transported via passive transport. Water will not be transported using energy. Water inside the cell is transported without energy. It is plain osmosis. Yesterday we studied about osmosis. Okay, so the structure in protein change, how the structure is changing and all, it's a very complex reaction. Okay, so please just understand that the structure is changing. What kind of reaction it is, and then like it will be like chemical reaction, obviously. Okay, so someone is asking me, sir, is sweating caused due to osmosis? Sweating is caused because of temperature increase in your body. Okay, when the sweating happen in your body, whenever your body is activated, your cardiovascular system is like kind of pumped up quite fast. You're running, you're jogging, you're doing some heavy cardio exercises. In such cases, what will happen is you will start feeling that sweat. Sweating is a mechanism whereby your body is like kind of maintaining a constant internal temperature. Okay, so water movement in your body itself is like happening because of osmosis. If water has to come out of a cell, it has to come out through osmosis only. So yeah, you can say that it is because of osmosis, but the main reason there is it is to maintain the constant environment, evaporation will happen. Are we guys able to understand active transport? Okay, so I told you about this active transport. I told you about the sodium potassium pump. So in this system, what is sodium potassium pump? In your body, there is a, in order to move things around, you have something called as a sodium potassium pump. Your cell, inside the cell, the sodium has to be lesser. Okay, potassium has to be more. So normally inside the cell, sodium should be less and potassium should be more. So what will happen? Your body will try to take sodium outside the cell and it will try to bring in potassium inside the cell. Okay, so it will happen because of a particular structure which is called as sodium potassium pump. So in your body, the movement would happen. The sodium has to be pushed outside the cell always, and potassium has to be taken inside the cell always. So this movement of sodium and potassium happens because of a particular protein structure which is called as sodium potassium pump. The sodium potassium pump is going to push things inside and outside. So sodium will be pushed outside and potassium would be taken inside. So whenever the sodium potassium pump is working, 3 sodium ions would go outside. Every time this pump is operating, 3 sodium ions would be pumped outside for 1 ATP. And whenever outside, again like 2 potassium ions are taken inside every time using 1 ATP. Okay, so which means 3 sodium is pushed outside, 2 potassium is taken inside, uses 2 ATP in total. So this is something you need to know. A sodium potassium pump is an active transport system for movement of every 3 sodium ions outside and movement of every 2 potassium ions inside. The system, entire system uses 2 ATP. I'm trying to tell that sodium should be lesser. I'm using the word should be. Okay. So normally your body system, sodium ions will be pushed outside and potassium ions should be more. So which means potassium will be taken inside. Okay, so this is what is the mechanism of sodium potassium pump. Sodium potassium pump is an active transport system. This will happen via the plasma membrane. Okay, are you guys done? Can we just proceed? So with that thing, plasma membrane is over. Passive transport is done yesterday itself. Yesterday itself, I have taught about passive transport. Okay, someone wants the slide. So first, second slide. Third slide. Fourth slide. So someone is asking me, is this what they call it as polarization? Okay. What is polarization in biology? Whenever you're telling that it is polarization, basically when you have two different charges inside and outside the membrane, we call that as a polarized condition. Okay, suppose if there is lots of negative charges inside and lots of positive charges outside, okay, or vice versa. If you're going to have a system where you have lots of positive charges inside and lots of negative charges outside, this kind of condition is what we call it as polarization. Okay. Uh, Sodium potassium pump will result in polarization at times. Okay. The sodium potassium pump will result in polarization because you see there is an uneven movement of charges. 3 potassium ions are moving outside. 3 positive charges are moving outside. And 2 positive charge is coming inside. So naturally, when a sodium potassium pump is normally happening, this would result in negative charge inside the membrane and positive charge outside the membrane. Okay. So whenever sodium potassium pump is happening, it would result in polarization. But this sodium potassium pump is not polarization as such. What is polarization? Whenever there is a distribution of charge inside and outside the membrane is different, we call that as a polarized condition. Sodium potassium pump will never stop in the sense like normally it will not happen. So it is like this. You have some kind of waste substance inside the body, inside the cell. So you have to remove that waste substance outside, which means constantly you try to drive it outside. Actually, the sodium potassium pump is responsible for transport of multiple substances inside and outside the body, as in inside and outside the cell. Okay. If a cell needs glucose inside, glucose is expected to come inside. So how is it transported? It is transported via the sodium potassium pump. So how is that happening? You see, the sodium and potassium pump will be there. When it is open, what will happen? This molecule is also specific to glucose. So along with 2 potassium, 1 glucose molecule will also be transported inside. Okay. So every time this is happening, sodium potassium pump, directly the substance is there, but it is like tag along substances of glucose. 1 glucose will try to join along with the thing every time. Every time sodium potassium pump happens, 1 glucose molecule will be taken inside along with it. But glucose transport is like kind of like dependent on sodium potassium transport. So that way what will happen, it will be something which is happening constantly inside your body. Okay. Are we guys able to understand this polarization? Sodium potassium pump will result in polarization. Okay, sodium potassium pump per se you cannot call it as polarization. Okay, so if this is done, plasma membrane is done. So now what we will move on, to cell wall. I'm going to ask some question now openly. So I want everyone to answer that question. Okay. Please change your mode of reply from private to public. Okay. I have enabled that feature for a while. Okay. What is the chapter that we are covering? Thank you. Enough, 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 enough. Got it, got it. Leave it, leave it, leave it. Okay, so now we are going to take care of cell wall. Cell wall, we are studying about cell wall. We have already covered prokaryotic cell structures. So now, yesterday onwards, we have started the eukaryotic cell structure. In eukaryotic cell structure, we have first studied about plasma membrane. Now we are studying about cell wall. Okay, it is present only in fungi and plants. Okay, in a eukaryotic cell, fungi and plants have it. They are non-living structures, rigid structures. What do I mean by non-living structure? They are all made up of substances which are not having life in it. Okay, it gives shape to the cell. It protects the cell. So it will protect the cell from mechanical damage and infection. Okay, it will act as a barrier. Okay, in algae, the cell wall is made up of cellulose, galactans, mannans, minerals. The minerals such as calcium. Okay, calcium will be in the form of calcium carbonate. So all these things are making the algae cell wall. I'll try to tell you what is this galactan, mannan and all. Just give me some time. Then in plants, the cell wall is made up of cellulose, hemicellulose, pectins, and proteins. Okay, and the cell wall in fungi will be made up of chitin. Okay, so this is what you need to know. Plus plants, I mean like algae and fungi. Okay, someone is asking me this question: if the cell wall is porous, how can it be acting as a barrier, sir? Okay, so it is acting as a barrier for most of the macromolecules. The smaller substances will not be prevented by cell wall, but there are some large substances which can enter into the cell, which can be like kind of prevented. Okay, so smaller the structure, it cannot enter into this particular. It can enter into cell wall, but as the structure is getting bigger and bigger, so it is like kind of keeping unwanted bigger substances outside. Okay, so you just take this thing down quickly. Okay, so now let us try to see what are these structures. Okay, you need to know some small notes, some additional notes that you can take. Cellulose is a structure, it is a polysaccharide of glucose. Okay, galactan is a polysaccharide of galactose. Okay, mannan is a polysaccharide of a sugar which is called as mannose. Okay, and pectin is a heteropolysaccharide. Okay, a major component in pectin is galacturonic acid. Hemicellulose is also a heteropolysaccharide. But it is simpler. Chitin is a nitrogen containing polysaccharide. Okay, it is a polymer of N-acetyl glucosamine. Okay, it is a derivative of glucose. From glucose, some amine compound will be attached, and then it is a polymer of that thing. Okay, glucose is a monosaccharide. Glucose is a monosaccharide. Okay, someone is asking me is the cell wall more rigid in plants than fungi and algae? Yes, it is more rigid because pectin is a very strong substance. Cellulose is also a very strong substance. Okay, so naturally the cell wall is more rigid in plants compared to algae and fungi. Okay, so these are all some of the important things that you need to know. Just take it down. Okay, actually, someone is asking me a question, sir. Why are they mentioning cell wall alone as non-living thing? Because mitochondria and endoplasmic reticulum are non-living if they are considered in particular, right? Okay, but okay, mitochondria you cannot really say it because the matrix is made up of uh, lots of these things. I mean, like if you see the mitochondrial matrix, you'll have lots of enzymes and live reactions will be happening there. And even in the endomembrane system, if you're going to talk about endoplasmic reticulum, it is actively involved in the synthesizing of some substance or the right other thing. So you cannot like really say them as non-living. If you're checking out the composition of it, we'll try to study about it in a while. So we'll be like moving on further now. So you'll study about it in a while. Okay, so are you guys done with this slide? Have you ever taken down? Okay, so and one more thing that I need to know is like I need to tell you is like there is a difference between homopolysaccharide and heteropolysaccharide. Okay, so what is the meaning of homopolysaccharide? Cellulose, galactans, mannans, and all are homopolysaccharide, which means the cellulose is a structure which will be only made up of what? Glucose. So then we call it as a homo. Everything is same type. We call it as a homopolysaccharide. Suppose if you are going to see the structure of pectin, pectin will be made up of different kinds of molecules. Different kinds of molecules will be making it. So that is why we call it as a heteropolymer. So if the structure is like having like different kind of structures together, then we call it as a heteropolymer. So you are able to see the difference. Basically, I have just given a color code and then shown you the difference between homopolysaccharide and heteropolysaccharide. Okay, so maybe galactose can be like this. I mean like galactans can be like this. So everything is made up of the same molecule. We call it as a homopolysaccharide. When it is made up of different things, we call it as a heteropolysaccharide. Okay, here this is hetero, so this is homopolysaccharide. And these things are also homo. Are you guys understanding? Can we move on? Yes, homopolysaccharide, which is made up of N-acetyl glucosamine. So what is the individual component making it? It is made up of a substance which we can shortly call it as NAG-NAG. What is that NAG-NAG? It is N-acetyl glucosamine. It is a derivative from glucose. Are we guys understanding? No, usually we call it as NAG only. N-acetyl glucosamine. I mean, that's just a short form for you to just remember it. Okay, so can we proceed? Okay, so now the next thing that you need to know is whenever you're talking about a plant cell, the young plant cells will be having cell walls which is capable of growth. In young plant cells, you will see that they are capable of young cells, it is capable of growth. This is called as a primary wall. Okay, but this primary wall will gradually grow, and ultimately what will happen is it will become what we call it as a secondary wall. Okay, so in your plant cells you have two type of growth which you will see. So mostly cell walls will be like are seen in plant cells only. So the first cell wall is called as a primary cell wall, which will grow and then gradually it will start to mature. And once it is maturing, we'll call it as a secondary cell wall. Okay, so this is something that you will see. And also one more thing that you will see is between cell walls, let us say that there are two cells which are there, or many cells are there in like this. What you will see between two cells, you will have some adjoining structures will be seen. These adjoining structures are called as plasmodesmata. Plasmodesmata is a bridge-like structure between two cells. Okay, it will allow the movement of substance. Desmosomes are structures seen in prokaryotic cells. What are human cells? Okay, so and also you will see something called as adhering structures. These adhering structures which will hold the cells. So these adhering structures which will hold the cells together tightly, we call them as middle lamella. So middle lamella is a structure which is made up of calcium pectate. Okay, and it will hold two cells together, plant cells together. It will act like a glue. So the middle lamella will be acting like a glue. So you are able to study the cell. So what are the important points that you will know on cell wall? You will have two adjacent cells are attached together by means of middle lamella. Okay, and there is a connection between two cells which is permissible, which will permit transport. So which is what we call it as plasmodesmata. So with this thing, we are completing the cell wall. Okay, so we'll complete the class today. So I'll just refresh all the slides once again. You can just go ahead. Second slide, third slide, fourth slide, fifth slide, sixth slide, seventh slide, eighth slide. Okay, thank you, children. Thank you very much. Sixth, someone. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, It is not like glucose is interlocking with them. Okay, so glucose is also transported along with the potassium pump. So there are some kind of structures which will enable glucose to be like transported. That's all. Fourth slide. Thank you, children. Thank you very much. Sir, முடிச்சிட்டேன் class.